The last two or three parashas are extremely relay over to us and the extraordinariness of Yosef Tzadik. All the challenges that he went through, and the enormous emunah, the toughness that he exhibited throughout the stage, not just in the Eibishter, but even in himself. This is an emunah and the toughness that essentially enabled him to somehow withstand the siyonus. It was brought down the Medrash. Even famous Matroina from Rome simply could not believe, a 17-year-old boy was able to somehow withstand. But the climax seems to really take place in this week's parasha. You see the pasuk says, Yosef was no longer able to withstand what he was feeling over here. And he called out, everyone should leave, and not one mitzvah remained in the room. And Yosef Tzadik was ready to disclose famously, Ani Yosef, I'm Yosef. And Rashi brings down from the Medrash, Yosef wasn't able to be sovel. He wasn't able to withstand this notion that the Mitzrayim are going to be standing there, Shayman, and they will hear that they will be present and witness the humiliation, the embarrassment of their brothers. And based on that, he called them out. He said, everyone leave. It's just me and my brothers. It's just me and these Jewish fellows. And the Medrash, the Rashi quotes actually brings down an interesting machlokes between Rucham bar Chanina and Shmuel bar Yankiv. On the one hand, one man Dharma holds that Yosef did something deeply inappropriate here. Yosef endangered his life. And because why? How is he endangering himself? We all know from the Drashim how extraordinarily strong the Shvatim are. As soon as they would hear what Yosef, that this was in fact Yosef Tzadik, perhaps because they felt that Yosef Tzadik still was wrong, or based on his minus, whatever it is, they would kill him. And by endangering his life, Yosef Tzadik was doing something wrong. He should have kept people there to guard him and to protect him in the event the Shvatim react in a way that would endanger Yosef Tzadik's life, or even kill him. And the alternative, which Shmuel Yankiv and other man that's brought down in Tanchuma says not like that. He says that Yosef Tzadik did this for one reason, for one reason only. It is better that I should be killed. That's what Yosef Tzadik's position was. Think about the Mesiras Nefesh that Yosef Tzadik had. It is better that I should be killed than my brother should be humiliated. And that this machlokes is a machlokes that expresses itself like all machlokes, in both in halacha and in Musa. In halacha, there's a simple issue about what exactly is the kurs of machlokes between these two mandomras in Chazal. The simple answer would be, according to those who learn that the Shvatim had a Din Yisrael, there's machlokes about when exactly it's appropriate to do Yahar G'layavar. When is it appropriate to be Meiser Nefesh completely? So famously, the Rambam says that you can only be willing to give your life up in one of three situations: anything else is also you simply cannot give up your life. The other Rishonim, Rabbeinu Yonah, for example, in Shar Gimel and Shar Tshuva, and the Russian and Tosis and Zara, they all seem to be mashma that even in other situations, a person is able to give up his life. And that would then could be the difference in opinion that's described over here in Chazal. On the one hand, one man Amar would hold like the Rambam, that he simply is not allowed to give up his life in a situation where he's simply embarrassing someone else. It's not one of the bases for being Meiser Nefesh. The other Rishonim will say not like that. The other Rishonim will say no. There are certain scenarios where, like the Rabbeinu Yonah is beferish. Abizrayu of Shvichas Damim, and including Abizrayu Shvichas Damim is the Isser Chomer of embarrassing somebody, especially in public. We saw from the Ma'aseh of Tamar and Yehuda that it's mutab. It's better for somebody to go into a kitchen eish than to embarrass someone else. So under the Rabbeinu Yonah will hold not like that. Rabbeinu Yonah would say there's nothing wrong with that. It's mutter, and that could be the machlokes between these two different Tanaim. But a Musar, there's also an extraordinary thing of learning over here. And it really gets into a a theme that's been developed by Yisrael Salanter. Yisrael Salanter coined a concept that is called Hatava b'makom kapeda. What does that mean? What does Hatava b'makom kapeda connote? It is a concept originated by Yisrael Salanter that basically says as follows: when a person feels animosity or anger towards somebody else, let's say Reuven was affronted by Shimon in some way. He feels that Shimon did something terrible to him, and it is very normal under the circumstances for Reuven to carry with him the kapeda, to be bragus, to feel slighted, and to maintain a certain degree of distance from Shimon because he feels slighted. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says it's not enough under those circumstances. It's not nearly enough to simply erase the anger, to erase the animosity. The way to do that, says Rabbi Yisrael, is to do good for the person who upset. And this is based on a chazal. It's based on in Derech Eretz Zuta. It says beferish that a person wants to be he wants to be loved by somebody. He wants to. What do? You with that person. You take care of him. You take care of his needs. And this chazal teaches us an important chiddush. I know that I just learned that two chasanim over here. This chazal teaches us an important chiddush. It's not, we don't do good for people simply because we like them. We like people because we do good for them. That's the yesod of Yisrael Salanter shtelin of. So, for example, it's brought down from Rav Dasser famously that Hav is the sherish of Ahava, which he says literally would mean then that giving is the root of all Ahava. If a person wants to love somebody, you give to them. The more you give, the more you love. That's how Yisrael says, why are babies created so helpless? Why do they need so much from the parents? He says it's tremendous taiva that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought into the world. He created a scenario where parents would give so much to their children that inevitably their ahava for the child would be extraordinary. There's a famous ma'aseh of Greg Kamenetsky in his Kehillah in Muncie. There's a family who Leilenu Klal Yisrael lost their child. Down syndrome. I think the child was somewhere in his 20s, maybe even his 30s. And while it is a terrible, terrible thing for parents to go through such things, and the pain that they carry with them is something that will never go away. The hole will always be there. The people in the community noticed that these parents were taken particularly badly. And they asked Rabbi Kamenetsky for an explanation, and he said, based on this case, it's very possible. The parents gave so much more to this kid. The love is so much more heightened, so much more substantial, that inevitably their pain will be that much greater as well. The yesod that Yisrael Salanter said over is tova b'makom kapeda. You want to remove this anger. You want to remove this separation, this division between someone you're upset with. Do good for him. The story that they say about Yisrael Salanter that really forms the basis for this idea of tova b'makom kapeda is a famous ma'aseh that occurred to Yisrael Salanter one time. He was traveling from Vilna to Kovna. Like most Litvish Gedalim, at least certain Litvish Gedalim, he did not dress during that tkufa at least as a rav, or he dressed instead as a pashto yid, and he was in a train. In the train cart, there was a young guy there, and he started complaining a lot about pretty much everything that Yisrael Salanter would do. Yisrael Salanter was smoking. He started making a big thing about Yisrael Salanter was smoking. The window was open. He said Yisrael Salanter had to close the window. Pretty much everything Yisrael Salanter did, this guy objected to it. Finally, by the time they get to Kovna, this guy exits the train, and he notices that there are about several hundred people waiting there for the start of Yisrael Salanter. So Yisrael Salanter walks out of the train. This guy sees that he just traded a cup with Yisrael Salanter for the last 45 minutes. He literally does not know what to do. He's completely broken. He doesn't even wait a day. He comes that night to Yisrael Salanter to ask from Chiyuv. He opens the door. He knocks on the door. Yisrael Salanter opens the door. As soon as Yisrael sees him, the first thing he says, what did he do? Did you rest already from the long trip? How are you feeling? When he saw the way he was being treated, now over all the horrible things they did to Yisrael Salanter while they were traveling together, he immediately broke into tears. Yisrael Salanter calmed him down. They talked for a while, and finally Yisrael Salanter said, what brings you to Kovna? So he said, I'll tell you the truth, I'm trying to become a sheikh. I'm trying to learn the laws of the Yardea because this is what I'm doing to make a parnasa. Rabbi Yisrael was very excited. He immediately gets to his chassan, Rabbi Leo, who happened to have been was a great Talmid Chacham. He asked him to test this young man to see if he's capable of becoming a shaykhut. His son-in-law told him, this guy does not really know Yerdei well at all. He's not going to be able to make it. Rabbi Yisrael says, no problem. He finds somebody who is going to tutor this guy. He ensures that this fellow afterward gets smicha from numerous rabbanim in Kavanah. And after all that was said and done, he made sure that he had a B'kavdik job as well. And only then did Rabbi Yisrael feel that he did what he had to do. Hatava, the Makom K'feda personified. The notion of doing good for somebody, to remove the K'feda, that is what Rabbi Yisrael did. And there's a similar ma'aseh about Rami Yafin. The Rami Yafin was famously the son-in-law of the Alter of the Bardik. And he made a chasna one time for an inical. Once he moved from New York to Eretz Yisrael. And what was interesting about the chasana is that there were numerous Gedolei Yisrael over there. Rabbi Kotler Imahim, imagine Rabbi Kotler is at that chasana. You have numerous outstanding Ga'onim at that chasana. And one of the people to receive a kibbutz under the chuppah was a relatively young Rav, a Talmud actually of Rav Yafin. And people didn't really understand why, in the presence of such extraordinary people, this young man was getting a bracha. Why was he getting this kibbutz over here? The Ram refused to say to give an answer. And in fact, we did not receive an answer until after his tira, at which point his Rebbetzin said over the following story. Years earlier, this Rav, about a day or two before the chasana of his daughter, contacted Rav Yafin. Rosh Yeshiva, he says, it would mean very, very much to me if you and your Rebbetzin will come to our chasana, come join us, come mishtatif in a simcha. It wouldn't be a simcha without you. Rav Ram was hesitant because he was a very busy man. He didn't really have much shaykhus with his Talmud. But the Talmud insisted on several times during the course of this conversation, please come, it will make a tremendous difference in my chasana. And then he relented. Both he and his wife agreed that they're going to come to the chasana. Comes the day of the chasana, they both expecting that they're going to at least have some kind of private transportation to take them to the chasana hall because this was very far away. Within 2 to 3 hours of the chasana, they saw that nothing of the sort is happening. To avoid any extraordinary expense, they went through the Tachana Markazit to take 1, 2, maybe even 3 buses to get to the chasana hall. They get to the chasana hall. The mechutin greets them very warmly. They don't get any kibbutz by the chuppah of any kind. The Rebbetzin was very upset at the way her husband was treated. Rami Yafin's reaction was not to say anything. And finally, at the chasana of his granddaughter, Ram finally got his chaparayim. I talked about Peda. He saw this gentleman over there at the chasana. He immediately grabs him, gives him a kibbutz, and now he did a ma'aseh that would enable him to remove any ill will, to remove any of that bad feeling that he had toward that Talmud. A Talmud personified. It's possible that the sherish of this all, the ability, because the Rishon Salanter didn't create these Yisaitis from a vacuum. As we said before, we see this already in the Gemara. We see this concept already in the Chavos Avavis. But it could be that he saw this also in the Ma'aseh of Yosef. Yosef Tzaddik was willing to risk his life just to ensure that his brothers would not be embarrassed. He had every right to say, this is finally my time, my opportunity to show to you that I was right and you were wrong. You tried to kill me when I told you about my chalemas. You tried to say that they're just dreams and I'm the voice. You tried to tell me that all this is nonsense and I deserve to be killed. But look at what just happened. You bowed to me. I'm completely right. I'm completely exonerated. I am completely and utterly correct. But he didn't do that. Instead of doing any of those things, he sought to do good for his brothers. He sought to be mate to them, to do good for them, to remove from him any possibility of any kafed against his brothers. And through that, it is possible, it's mishrash in all of us, this capacity to do good for those, even when we feel hurt by others. Now the question that we have to ask ourselves is that we're talking about Rishon Salanter, we're talking about Rami Yafin, we're talking about Yosef Tzaddik, we're talking about people who seem to be so above us that it seems to be almost unnatural to think that we are all capable of doing this. But Rishon Salanter always said this is something that every Jew is capable of doing. And I just want to end up with a thought that I had about how in fact this is not so hard for any one of us. in every one of our relationships to try to do good for others. And I thought that the simple idea that I had is something, an observation that I had years ago. Many of us, when we're slighted, when somebody, and this is inevitable because every one of us goes through this in life. Someone hurt us, someone or many people could have hurt us. But many of us feel relatively small. So when we feel slighted, our ego inevitably enlarges the pain. It takes that slight and it makes it 100 times bigger. It makes it impossible for us to get over it. You talk to a guy about sinas chinam, he says, that's sinas chinam. This is not free hatred, this is deserved hatred. I to get a patch or two. At every point, at some point in our life, it behooves us to realize that we're older, we are adults, and we have to start realizing that we're special in our own way. Each one of us has an extraordinary kaiches. And the more we're able to remove ourselves from feeling small, the more we're able to remove ourselves from the sense that we are very limited, and the greater attention that we're able to ascribe to our inherent greatness, whatever it is. Some of us are great with our hands, and some of us are great with our minds, some of us are great with people. Whatever we have, if we could focus on the greatness that we have, it is so much easier to forgive. It is so much easier to be mindful. It's so much easier to just say, you know what, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do good to this guy because I just don't care. The slight is irrelevant. It's unnecessary. The reason why we think it's so beyond us is because we think it's too low of ourselves. The side that we're learning from over here, from a person especially like Yosef Tzaddik, is not even in a situation when he felt was a lowly servant. He was fixing up his hair, he could make Malchus no matter what. He was in a situation where he saw that I am ready for Malchus, I am ready for greatness. He never let go of his sense of greatness. Yehuda was the same exact way. As we saw in last week's parasha, his brothers basically, he lost his Gdula. But he's still walking around with his scepter, he's still walking around with his cloak. Why is he doing these things? Because it could be that he lost his Gdula by his brothers. But he was still a melech. He was still a person of substance. Such people don't give up on their inherent greatness. And for them, these slights are just slights. They're small, they're insignificant. We're able to look past that and grow from the experience. So perhaps one big thing we learn from over here is that Yosef Tzaddik wasn't somebody who looked at himself at this stage of his life. He was a melech and the second in command of the greatest kingdom. He didn't look at himself as a 7-year-old boy who was slighted by his brothers. He recognized his greatness. It was possible for him, even in that situation, to say, you know what, to my brothers, I'm going to do good to you. I love you. I want you to be happy. I don't want to feel any anger and animosity toward you. And I'm going to use this, you said, to make sure that I feel no anger toward you anymore. I think that's a big insight to learn from this parsha.
Thank you.